Welcome to Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Follow me at Instagram at the address below. Today we are doing the first step in revisiting journaling by fives. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Now, journaling by fives was started by Shannon Green, and here's a list of the prompts as Shannon had done it. And I'll put a link in the description box to her video. Here is the steps that I'm going to follow.
Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here, and today I'm getting ready to do step 1 of Journaling by Fives, revisited and revamped. So it's going to be slightly different than the traditional way, and please see my previous video, Getting Ready for Journaling by Fives Revisited, and it will tell you why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it and what I've done to prepare for it and to kind of hedge my bets that make sure that this is going to be successful. So I love the Journaling by Five process. It was instrumental in helping me learn the process of art journaling and the different components of it. And it also taught me that you can save any page. You just have to keep working it and adding things and sticking to those same components. So my first step is going to be collaging. And in my room now I've just sorted out, I just went through my gel prints and I pulled out and kind of arranged by color various ones. So each of these could be in 1 page or 2 page or 3 page, but I just kind of wanted to have it in some kind of way. So that's going to be off to the side. I also have here the top layer of assortment of napkins, because these are great for collaging. I have some doilies, some large ones and some small ones, punched out circles, some die cuts from my silhouette, some stamped images, and some recycling kind of stuff here. So that is a good thing for collaging. I've got music paper and book paper. I've got patterned paper, and then I have a whole variety of my homemade tissue papers, and I have that all to the side.
Here's a visual of the various collage materials you could use during this step. Now, I prepared all 20 of my sheets with gesso ahead of time, as I recommended in my first video. And again, I'm not using a composition book, but you can. It's up to you. I like the freedom of having them loose. Now, I'm just going to use a glue stick to tack down the collage elements quickly. Now, you could use matte gel or Mod Podge at this stage, but as I said, I'm going to tack it down a little bit, and I'm going to come back later and do a thorough job of this. There simply isn't enough time to do it all in the 15 minutes. And have an extra glue stick on hand if you're going that route, because inevitably they dry out or something happens. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. Now remember, you can give yourself a break in between if you'd like, or you can divide up your collage materials into 2 sections with a break in between, as listed in my first video. So I'm opened up the glue stick before I set the timer, and I take a deep breath, and we should be off. Now, as I said earlier, I have a collection of like-colored and a variety of colored papers, collage materials that I can use. And that's what you see on the left-hand side there. I just wanted to make sure that I had a variety of colors represented. And maybe that's a little too left brain, but I didn't want to have all the pages the same color. So in selecting the deli papers, and this is real time, I haven't sped up this part of the video. In selecting those collage elements, I tried to get things that were different weights. So you have tissue paper and paper towel and deli papers and some mulberry paper and different things, and they all will add different levels of texture. When you're collaging, you are adding texture, color, or pattern. So I discovered that putting the glue onto the paper instead of on the backs of the collage elements was a little bit faster. So there I have some of my printed tissue paper that I just stamped. I also spent time beforehand. I ripped all the straight edges. When I collage, I don't like straight edges, so I just took the time, because there's not a whole lot of time to start ripping and getting those straight edges off in the 15-minute video. Some of these collage papers or deli papers or gel prints that I have are things that I've had for a good couple years. So it does feel really good to get used to them. Now in the list I talk about magazines. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, you could use actual pictures from a magazine, but a stack of towels in those different colors will add a nice, interesting visual effect and color to your page. And I'm not afraid to layer them up, although you'll see that I'm just tacking it down. So later on, I do show where I finish some of these sheets, and you'll see me lifting them up and then tacking them down properly with Mod Podge. Doilies are another good thing that can add some interest and texture to a page. And as I'm doing the voiceover for this part of it, I'm thinking, hurry up, Karen, you're going to run out of time. Every time I've done journaling by fives in the past, the 2 times, I did it while standing. Here I'm sitting because of the mobility issues that I am experiencing, but that made such a difference. Also, I don't have as much space to spread out my stuff. So at the end of the video, I do show all the completed pages, and I kind of do a recap, giving you things to think about and maybe problems that you can prevent, from what I did. Things I may have been doing differently if I was doing this again. I found talking while gluing everything down to be extremely difficult to do, especially with the time element. My ability to do that was greatly hindered. You may have noticed on that page I had glued down, at least 7, 8 pieces of paper. Spoiler alert, that's not a good plan when you're under a time element. Now, when you use this stamped tissue paper that you've created, you also are adding some stamping and some visual texture in there. So you're really, doing this at this stage, you can add a lot of interest to your page all in one step. Anybody else there going, say, Karen, hurry up? When I do collage, I often spend a lot of time thinking about and moving this piece this way and this way and this way. So I kind of wanted to break through that, and hopefully I'll have enough variety of compositions and to figure out some of the things that work best. I find that sometimes when you start collaging, you do the exact same thing. You put the papers up pretty much in the same place every time. And while that may work wonderfully well, there may be other equally as great ways to do it. Now, the thing you have to remember as you're doing these pages is that there are 4 more steps after this. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And should you get to the end and you need to add some collage papers or something, you can do that in the free play or the finishing stage. This is old music paper that I bought at the secondhand store, and it's, from like 1920s. It's brittle and dry and crisp and discolored with age and time. Somewhere there I have dictionary paper as well. But I had so much stuff on either side of me that I couldn't even find this stuff in the throes of the timed collaging here. So I put it down and I rip it off. Anybody else that happened to you? Now I'll warn you, 15 minutes goes really, really quickly. So be prepared for that. So 5 pieces went on this page. 6. Whoop, and 7. And 8. No guess here as to why I ran out of time. I was playing around with my stamps and experimenting with making some embellishments or whatever, and these were kind of dry runs. And so I just, they were on my desk, so use them. So this is a great time to use the stuff, the little bits that you have left over. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven again. As I'm watching this, it's seemingly going so terribly slowly, but when I did it, it was like a blink. Now, when you use tissue paper, you can use just plain white tissue paper or colored tissue papers if that's what you have. It adds texture, even if it's plain. It's going to, wrinkle when you glue it down and add some interesting texture that you'll be able to play up in other stages and steps. I've obviously forgotten that there are 4 more steps in which I can add stuff. But if you've watched my videos, you know I show you as it happened. I don't hide my mistakes or my struggles. I have a lot of gel prints that I've done on paper, well, from a phone book, but you can get often the recreation guides often are printed on that same kind of newsprinty paper. That paper collages really nicely. I got this tissue paper in a gift from a friend, and I couldn't tell you what the gift was. I was more excited about the tissue paper because I knew I could do something with it. That's a napkin that has some lovely script on it. So as you can see, I don't appear to be too terribly rushed or panicked. Here's another napkin. And I just love the colors. I love the green and the purple here. So actually those are the colors of a canvas that I just did. But you can get some wonderful designs and patterns off of napkins. You just have to make sure you remove the excess layers. Another napkin. And the timer went off. And I believe I have 8 or 9 pages left. So I just continue working because I made that decision right at the beginning that if I don't have time, I am going to finish. But I think it's important to keep that timer going, or not just giving yourself an unending amount of time. Otherwise, you're not going to get the benefits of maybe forcing yourself to get out of your left side analytical brain that can spend 3 days finding the perfect placement. This paper is brayered off. It was from when I was doing my gel printing, and I brayered off onto a page, and it has this lovely leather-like texture that I stamped on. And it's been in my stash for 2.5 years. These are circles that I just punched out with my punch. I have 2 circle punches. But if you have other punches, you can do some shapes. But I would keep them pretty generic, because then you are pretty open-ended to what you're going to put on the page afterwards. When I did journaling by 5s the first time, I didn't understand collage, and I put a lot of pictures that got covered with the stamping and stenciling and the focal point later on. This part is still in real time. And I think all in all, I took another 8 minutes, I believe, when I watched the recap of it. I think the best thing I did here was, sorting out my gel prints by color and making sure there were lots of textures there. So being prepared to do the steps is important. As much as we want to go quickly, we still want to be prepared so it is the best. We're not just going to throw any old thing on. Now I'm thinking that at this time, a lot of the colors that I've put down on here are going to lead to what colors I may put later on. But you could cover these up and, at a later stage and push them into the background and go a whole different color. Some of these, the color combinations are things I don't particularly like, so they might get a coat of white paint on there, so they're pushed to the back, and then I can put a different color during that step. But as I said, the order that I've decided to do the prompts, I'm not sure how they're going to work. I think it makes sense, but I'm going to know a lot more once I actually do it. This is colored coffee filters, and they again collage so very nicely. And I, tend to have a stack of them on the side, and I'll often use up the leftover paint on them and then stencil on them, and you can add whatever later on. And all my gel prints and deli papers and collage papers that I've made and napkins and all that kind of stuff is all stored in my big blue box filing system. And I'll put a link to my organizational videos, because when you have these supplies, you need to have them in place in a way that you can easily access what you're creating. You need to know where they are, and you need to be able to get them. There's no point in having stuff if you don't know where it is. And my big blue box filing system is one of the organizational ways that I've done it that I'm really happy with. It's lasted a long time, and it's grown with me. I'm really happy that I got all my gel prints and colored papers organized so that there was a variety of colors used, because I think that's going to give some variety to my pages. But in my first journaling by fives, I picked a theme, so I limited the colors, and that made it easier too. So you can go either way. But I think it's really important that you do edit your choices. You should not have everything but the kitchen sink there. This is some die cuts that I cut with my Silhouette Cameo, and I absolutely love using those in my art journal and in my mixed media piece. It adds interesting texture and design, and if it was colored, it would add color as well. So I'm hoping that, that you're going to join me in revisiting JB5s if you've done it before, or visiting it for the very first time. And whether you choose to go in the order of Shannon's prompts, or you choose to do mine, or you do something on your own, I'm hoping that you'll share it in my Facebook group. I'm hoping some people are even going to get brave enough to do videos of it. That just encourages more people to do the process and get the benefits of the process, because I think this is a wonderful learning process. So right now I've sped it up. All my pages are done, and what I'm using is just Mod Podge and a brush, and I'm lifting everything up and just gluing it down where it was, and I'm not moving anything anywhere, even though I'm tempted, because some of them I wish I didn't have them there, but I am just, they go down where they're at. Now again, you can use gel medium. I just chose not to, because I try to save my gel medium for the finishing stages of my projects, and for maybe my art that I'm going to hang or give away or sell even. I wish I could move this fast. Boy, I could have flown through this if that was the case, right? As I said, I'm hoping lots of you join us, and I'm really, really hoping that people are going to share. If all you can do is take pictures of your pages and post them on the Facebook group, then do that. Do what you can, comment what you can. If that's all you can, say, hey, I did it, this is what I found, this worked for me, I didn't like doing it this way. Give us the information. Everybody does things a little differently, and there's definitely somebody who is going to benefit from your comments or your pictures.
Okay, so everything's dried and glued down properly. And we're just going to kind of rehash this a little bit. Obviously, I ran out of time, significantly out of time. I did end up giving myself another 5 minutes at the end to finish off those pages because I'm okay with that. That's what I've chosen to do. What I would do differently is I would limit it. I would just have the deli papers, or just, you know, a lot less. I had way too much stuff. And also then I would limit, you know, like on here I had 2 things added to this one, or 3. Some of these ones up here I was adding way too much. You know, I touched 7 different pieces of paper to get them done. So I would also just kind of keep that in mind. You know, 3, 4, move. You know, whether you're done or not, go on. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to do collage is that's something that I want to explore more. And I find when I was doing it on canvases or on art journal pages, I'm really overthinking this process. So this was really good to do under a timed pressure. So, you know, I have a good variety of sheets here, you know, different compositions and stuff. So I'm excited about that because that is going to, I'm going to be working with those different compositions as we go. So just for the sake of record keeping, I have numbered them on the bottom here just to keep them in the right order. So you can see we have 3 very different kind of setups and arrangements, and I'm kind of liking that in there. And again, we have different compositions and arrangements of collage pieces. So I'm going to be able to learn a lot from that. So there's lots of variety, as you can see. Now, you know, I love the composition of this one. You know, I like this one. This one's not bad. Some of these, you know, as I'm going through, like this one, you know, I'm thinking, okay, that shouldn't have been there. This has no purpose. If I was doing it again, I probably wouldn't do it. You know, this one's looks like something's missing, but this is only the first step. We are going to be adding a lot to this. Same thing here. I'm not sure, but we will make it work in the process. And you know, this one I like the possibilities there. This one, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I like the simplicity of this one, you know, and maybe, you know, keeping some white space coming up. Again, we see some very different compositions. So that's going to give very different backgrounds to work with. So these are done. The next step is going to be to do stamping. So I will see you for that.